Hey, here we go again in our word through 1 Peter, and I'm going to pick up right with the next verse. We left off where the Spirit of God is pointing to women, talking to women, telling them how they can, exude influence even over non-Christian husbands by them showing the transformation that Christ is making in their deepest inner selves, that beauty of Christ is out showing from their innermost being. So the conversation picks up in verse 5. It says, "For this is the way," meaning to show submission, to show reverence, to show quietness, and that kind of a thing that he talked about in the other verses. "For this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to adorn themselves." Adorn, he's comparing to outward clothing, which he says, is not something that a Christian wife should emphasize so much as she should emphasize her inner beauty. And this doesn't mean that she should dress shabby. It's just showing the super value of your inner soul manifesting your beauty. "For this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to adorn themselves. They submitted to their own husbands." Now he's going to give an Old Testament example. "Like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord. You are her daughters," now he's talking to present day followers of Christ, "if you do what is right and do not give way to fear." So this is really an interesting thing. So Abraham and Sarah are heralded in Scripture as being models, particularly Abraham, of what it means to authentically trust in God. But in this case, the light goes on Sarah. And the fact that Sarah literally called Abraham Lord. Now, this does not mean that she thought he was deity, that she was not worshiping Abraham. This was just a terminology for respect. So the question we would ask today is, what communicates respect? What approach would a wife take toward her husband, be he Christian or unchristian, that would communicate in our culture, "I respect this man"? And so the language doesn't need to be the same. I've always laughed at this portion of Scripture. I've never seen a Christian woman call their husband Lord, nor do I think they should have to. But the point is that he's saying, if you want to impress God and you want to have influence in the best possible ways over your spouse, if you want to be a blessing to your spouse, if you want to maximize your blessedness to your spouse, this is the way to do it. Be quiet, be pure, be humble, be gentle, be loving, be submissive. That doesn't mean you don't state your opinions. It doesn't mean that you don't share insights. It doesn't mean any of that. It is more of an attitudinal. It is more of an approach than it is, what you actually say or do. Now, of course, it includes that as well. But what kind of amazing results we would get if you were to go into a common office place setting today, or just anywhere in the world, and take an average 100 women and you share this with them, that this is what God's model, this is his idea of, this is the functionality for a wife today, would be that you're humble, you're submissive to your husband to the point that you find terminology that lets him know and everybody else around you know that you respect him. Now, this doesn't mean that he deserves your respect. I said that yesterday. It doesn't mean that he's always right. It doesn't mean that he's not going to make a mistake or anything like that. It just means that you recognize your role, and when you play your role, God's going to be able to work in the life of your husband on the highest levels. Doesn't mean the husband's going to respond all the time, but it means that you're maximizing the chances for your husband responding by your conduct, by your submissiveness, by your beautiful, quiet, gentle spirit. Those are the things that can move a man's heart, even to this day. Well, I hope I haven't angered you if you happen to be a woman watching this, and I'll see you again soon.